Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Table Talk, live from 185 North Main Street in Barrie. It's a nice day. We can't complain, right? It's actually beautiful, not hot, sticky, gross, humid. And so we gotta love that. Today we're joined again by Rick Coyne, or Richard Michael Coyne is how we're putting it out there now, so that I can tag you in the post, so that it goes YouTube and Facebook. That way I can tag you, and hopefully it makes it easier for your friends and followers to find.
I just got back on Facebook.
You did, and that was a good thing to do. But anyways, as you can hear, Rick is here in the studio with us, along with the other jokester, Jeff. I'm trying to sign on and get ready to talk with you all, and they're throwing freaking candy bars at each other and giggling like little schoolgirls over there, and, you know, just being a pain in my butt. But anyway, here we go. Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Did you have a good 4th?
Yeah, had a very
You
good
did?
one. Yeah.
Do anything fun?
I went fishing with my nephew, who at some point I'll bring up in the podcast.
Absolutely. I was wondering when that was going to happen,
Yeah.
because like there was no way we were going to get through this entire thing without mentioning him.
Yeah, I gotta mention
Like
that.
I knew that. Yeah.
And then eventually I want to mention my family, which will be a little difficult, but I do want to go through that.
Mhm.
Take a little bit of time.
Yeah, a little bit of time. But to start things off today, how about we start with you doing your mentions that
Right.
you'd like to do.
And then first, I would like to send everybody kind, peaceful, and happy thoughts to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make a mention out to somebody that works in my office. And I want to say, geez, Thomas, thank you for the wedding invitation.
Uh-oh.
I'll leave it at that.
Uh-oh. They're having a hard time hearing you.
Are they?
So I don't know. Are you still green? We're gonna mess with his mic here and see what we've got going on.
I think his is dead.
You do? Here you go. It said it was 100% when I gave it to him, but here, put this one on.
Lighting up and all.
Put this one on him.
I feel like a techie.
No, don't hit the buttons.
It's red and green.
It should not be red. Take that red off the top.
Got it.
There you go.
How's
You're
that?
still green.
Can they hear me now?
Good to go, Jane? You should be good to go now. It'll take a second because there's a small delay, so it'll take a second to know if she can hear us now. But,
Mine is off too.
well, what have you done? I don't have another one to give you. You just need to give it to me and I'll reset it.
Yeah, both of them.
I don't know. See, it probably happened when you guys were having a candy war.
No, they probably weren't charged.
I
They
didn't
were
start it, I can tell you
100%.
that.
They were 100%. You just messed it up. Raising hell like you were 2 little kids. Good Lord. Dress them up, can't take them out. All right, here we go. Take it away. Go ahead. And
so they can hear
mention-
me, right?
Yes. And all good, she says.
Oh, good. So I would like to mention a few families that changed my life growing up in Vermont because I had such a traumatic family life. These families made a wonderful impact on my life. And some of the parents have passed on, but I want to mention them because I can't explain how much they affected my life to be around families that were kind and did things together, and they welcomed me into their families, and I've spent many nights at their homes just to get away from my house. And some of the parents, I think some of the parents knew that something was going on at my house. And it's some of the best times of my life growing up. And I want to thank the Kuchar family, starting with Bob and June Kuchar, who have passed away. And I haven't seen a lot of these people for years, but they were a huge part of my life. And they owned a farm up in South Barrie, and I spent as much time up there as I could, and they let me stay over all the time, and I helped on the farm, and was part of the family, and had dinner and breakfast, and just wonderful times haying, and just had great times. And
That's not a statement you hear very often.
Yeah.
A wonderful time haying.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we all did it together. It was like a lot of fun. And Matt Kuchar at the time was probably my closest friend. Him and Norm Fournier and Mike Roos were my three closest friends at the time. And Matt was just wonderful to me, and he included me in his family all the time. And I wanted to thank the children, which are Mark, Lisa, Dan, Matt, Laura, and Leanne. So they were just wonderful to me. And then my next family, of course, is Matt's first cousin, Norm Fournier. So they're like, they were hooked at the hip when I met them. And Norm's been a close friend of mine. I'm still very good friends with him, and I see him. And I wanted to thank his family, too, for taking me in a lot, and having his dad drive us around, and I got to stay over his house. And, of course, we were all in trouble together. We young guys. Yeah, always
Not
get a bunch
you.
of hooligans. Yeah.
And his brother Dennis?
Yeah, so I wanted to thank them, his dad Leo and his mom Giselle, who was just a wonderful person, his older brother Denny, and then of course Norm. Norm's a great guy, one of the funniest people we've ever met in our lives. And
A good guy, too.
Yeah, Leah and Michelle, and Norm has a heart of gold like his cousin Matt. Both of those guys have a heart of gold. Then I wanted to thank the Roos family. I spent a lot of time with Mike Roos. He didn't live far from me from the first 2 years that I moved to Vermont. And he has a pretty big family, and we did a lot together. And I wanted to thank his family, Rip, his stepfather, Rip, and his mother, Diane, David, Bobby, Sonia, Sue, Mike, Eddie, and Sally. So they had a huge family.
Yeah, we know Eddie pretty well.
Yeah, and
Right.
I didn't stay over there. They had so many kids. They didn't
Right.
have room for you to stay over. But I spent a lot of time there at the house, and Rip and Mike, I guess, are the ones that kind of helped me to fish. And Rip took us to Canada fishing, and we did that for I think between, I would say, 8 and 12 years in a row. We went with Mike's dad started with Mike's dad, and then we kept doing it ourselves. And I cherish those memories a lot. It was nature, again, out in nature. And then I wanted to thank Tamara Tomasini, who was a very close friend of mine, still is. I'm still in contact with her, and her parents were wonderful to all of us. And they were Dick and Donna. And so we had spent many a night at their house, and we've had a couple of Christmas parties at their house, which with the parents there, and we had some wonderful, wonderful times. And Tamara's a wonderful person, and she has wonderful parents.
Yeah, Dick still helps on the basketball
Oh,
tournaments.
tell him I said hello.
I will.
He's a
He's a
wonderful,
very nice man. I've always gotten along
wonderful
well
guy.
with him.
Wonderful guy. So that's it for that.
That's it for that. So we last left off episode 3 with your adventures at Mount McKinley. And now we're going to start to dive deep into what was your first, let's call it your first life-changing
Incident. Yeah.
Some would call it a tragic event.
Very tragic event.
That's what I would say,
Right.
because this isn't. It goes beyond an event. That's for
Yeah.
sure. It's something that you have long endured and will always.
Right. Right.
So we'll let you take it
So
off with telling the story.
I think we all can look back at different times in our lives and pick a spot where that particular event totally changed the path of my life. And I mean, I can honestly say now, after having all of that happen to me, that it was without a doubt maybe one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, and in the long and a roundabout way, because it changed my whole path in life. It changed some of the way I think, and definitely changed my physical path for at least 5 years or 4 years. So,
And it's seems odd to say that, but I totally get it.
you
that-
get it because
that
you know.
sometimes the most horrible things, the most tragic things,
Yeah.
those are the things that actually mattered most. They
Yeah.
shaped you the most.
Yeah.
And even though it was horrible, if you had to do it again, you wouldn't want to do it again.
I wouldn't want to do it again, but
that-
it's definitely probably I would say the second biggest change in my life that changed the path of my life. And so I was working at what's called IBM at the time, and I was doing welding with Craig Rexford, who's now our regional director. And they called in a bomb scare, the first time it's ever happened at IBM. Somebody called in a bomb scare. And we didn't know it at the time, so everybody went home, and then all those foremen and all the people that were in charge, we all got a phone call, which is very unusual to get a phone call at the house. We didn't have cell phones back then. And they told us we couldn't come into work the next day. And boy, I was happy. I was like, well, that's great news. I don't have to
Right,
work.
an extra day.
It's an extra day off. It's Wednesday. I can go climbing, you know. And I had been about a year from climbing Denali, and it was December 29th, the day that Wednesday, I think, was the day that we had off. And I've been working on my climbing through the early winter, trying to get better at ice climbing, which is a constant thing when you're a climber. You're always trying to get better. So I decided to get up early in the morning and drive up to Smuggler's Notch, which was closed, and it was full of snow, and the ice was in, and I knew nobody would be there. And so I had this all planned in my head that I'm going to go up, and I wanted to practice down climbing with ice. It's very difficult to climb down the ice, much more difficult than going up. And then the next difficult thing is to traverse along ice. That means that you have to go to the side like that. So I had a place in mind that I wanted to practice that on. So I got up early in the morning and I went downstairs. I always had my stuff laid out on a long bench because I had lots of equipment, ice screws, ropes, runners, everything you can think of, rock climbing gear. And so I got up early, I was eager. You know, to have this day off, I looked outside, it was bluebird sky. I mean, it was cool, you know, it was maybe 14 degrees, 15 degrees, and not a cloud in the sky. I just couldn't wait to get up and get going. So I went down in the cellar, I got my stuff together. I remember putting my ice axes on the back of my pack, getting my crampons out and sticking them in a sleeve on the side of my pack. And then I got all my outer gear, which I had down there, all of the outer gear that you wear, all your North Face coat and your pants and my gaiters. I put those in there that go over your boots and your pants. And I got my climbing boots out. I got those all ready to go. I put the socks in the boots because you don't wear those when you're driving. You change into those when you get to where you're climbing. So I had my hiking boots on. Then I had my, what I call my inner layers. You know, you have your fleece, and I had a coat that was kind of windproof that was fleece because you're going to sweat a lot when you're hiking up. So I had all that stuff ready. Threw it all together, threw it in the truck, and took off. And of course, I wanted to get some breakfast, so I stopped in Waterbury at that restaurant on the corner. I forgot what it was called.
Maxie's?
Max.
Maxie's. It's called Maxie's now, but back then, who knows what it was called. And I had a great breakfast. Of course, I love breakfast. And, you know, I was always hungry because I was training all the time. And had that breakfast, and then drove down through Stowe, and then drove up towards Stowe Mountain. And you get past Stowe Mountain, and there's Smuggler's Notch Road goes up and over the other side into Cambridge, where Smuggler's Notch ski area is. But they close that road because it gets full of snow and they can't keep it open. And it's very dangerous because up at the top it has a lot of switchbacks and it's very steep. So you have to start at the bottom near the Stowe area where the road is closed, and then you've got to hike. You have to hike in to where you want to climb. And luckily for me, it snowed like 3 or 4 inches of powder. It was just, when I got out of the truck, nobody was there. And there's powder on the ground and blue bird sky, and the wind's blowing a little bit. And it was just gorgeous day for me. And I like being alone. You know, I like hiking alone, and I do like climbing alone and being in nature because you're inside of your head, you know. And so I started walking, and as you walk up Smuggler's Notch Road, you get up about, I would say, maybe just a little over a half a mile, and it opens up. And you can see all the beautiful ice climbs on both sides of the cliffs that go up through Smuggler's Notch. And to hike it, even if I wasn't going to climb, I've been up there hiking many times just for training. I'd throw a bunch of weight on me, go up to the top, down the other side, and come back up, and then come back to Stowe. I think that's like 4.5 or almost 5 miles. Because the view up there is just beautiful. And there was nobody there. I mean, it was like amazing for me to hike in up there. So I have to hike up a long ways. I think it's approximately 2 miles to where I turn off the road and go to the climb that I wanted to go to. And then as I get off the road, I was in the woods, but of course, there's no leaves, you know, it's all gray trees, and, you know, there are some pines in there, but not a lot. There's a few good-sized pine trees in there. And then you have to start working your way through the snow. And they had, the trail had been packed, but probably on Sunday, maybe a few people were in there. So I was in the fresh snow, and then you're always kind of poking through. So it started to get a little steep, so I said, I better put my crampons on. So I took my pack, take it off my back, set it down. I put it face down with the back looking out to grab my crampons, and I undid one ice axe because I only need one to climb up the snow to where I wanted to climb. And I discovered for the first time since I started climbing that my helmet was not on the back of my pack. So I stopped. I stopped right there. I didn't put my crampons on. I stopped and I started thinking, you know, it's a beautiful day. I don't have my helmet, which is a big no-no when you're climbing. But I started thinking there's nobody there. I was the only tracks in, so nobody is going to be over my head climbing. Normally that's how you get hit with ice, people climbing over your head. And then I'd have to hike down off the mountain, get onto the road and hike back 2 miles, get in my car, drive all the way to Barrie, which is 55 minutes, get my helmet, drive all the way back, and by then the day is not shot, but you know, I was thinking I'm not probably going to want to come back. I'm just going to want to lounge around the house, right? So I said, well, I know where I can climb where the ice won't be directly over my head. So I did stop and have, you know, that decision to make. And I decided to go on because it was a beautiful day. I'd already worked, you know, driving there, getting up early, did the hike. And so I got my ice axe out and started climbing through the woods, and then there's a snow climb to the ice climb that I wanted to get to. And the snow climb, I would say maybe 40 degrees, maybe at the steepest 45. So you have to, you know, you have to have your crampons on, and you're not front pointing, but you're kind of gripping the snow to climb up there. And part of the reason why I wanted to do this climb, because I knew that snow was under the climb, and if I fell off, which probably wouldn't happen, I would just land in that snow. And I'd be able to turn around and self-arrest myself, because we had practiced that. You practice self-arrest when you're climbing. So I got up to where the ice was, and I said, wow, you know, it looked really good. So I was climbing ice that looks kind of like this slope here. It wasn't steep. It was maybe 3 ice, which I have no trouble soloing, you know, climbing that. But above that little bulge, the bulge was maybe 25 or 30 feet that I could climb, which I wouldn't go all the way to the top. My feet would be off the ground, maybe 18 feet, 20 feet at the most. And so I can practice doing what I want to do, down climbing, moving sideways. And the width of the climb was probably a good 50 feet, I think, maybe a little more, maybe 60 feet at the bottom. So I had a lot that I could work with, where I wouldn't be up high, and if I did fall, I'd be fine. You know, I had already planned all that in my head. But from this part of the climb, there was a little shelf here, and then the real climb, went straight up about close to 100 feet. And I have climbed it before. I led it one time in my life, and I probably climbed it maybe 10, 12 times with other people. And it's a beautiful climb. And when you get on that climb, and even when I was below that climb, I'm not quite above the trees, but the view of Smuggler's Notch is incredible from that height. It's just, because now you can see the whole notch down to where the ski area is. And you can see up onto the Stowe Mountain. So the whole time I'm up there getting ready, I'm looking around, taking my time, enjoying the beautiful view, and the wind was picking up, and of course, you know, I would say up there it might have been 12 degrees, and you know, your breath, you can see your breath, and sparkly, everything's sparkly, you know, white sparkles.
Looks perfect.
Yeah, blue sky. And so I get my stuff on. I dug out a little ledge to put my pack in, and so I could put my stuff down and I could stand straight, you know, get my stuff on, get my ice axes ready. And then I have to work my way to the ice. So you got to climb through the snow. And the way the ice came down, it was, part of it was in knee-deep snow. So you have to kick in to get above that. And then, so I got up high and I was climbing around, and I was climbing up and then climbing down, probably 3 or 4 moves each, up and down, which isn't a lot when you're ice climbing, but it's getting you used to doing that, climbing up and climbing down. Then I was climbing sideways, and when I was at the highest point, I heard a noise below me, and I said, oh, I can hear somebody talking. And so 2 young guys walked underneath me, kind of out and about from me, and I said hello to them, and they said hello to me, and they said they had never ice climbed in Vermont. They followed my footsteps in. So we were the only 3 people in that notch that morning. And I told them that I would get off the climb so they can do the upper climb. You know, that's climbing etiquette. You know, I'm going to let them do that climb, and told them it was a beautiful climb. And so I'm up there and I can hear them. These are the vivid things that I remember from that day. So I can hear them. They're getting their ropes out. See, I didn't have to have a rope or ice screws because I wasn't doing a real climb. I was just practicing. So I can hear them, and I can hear the ice screws, because when you take ice screws out, they clang. And they're long, and they're made out of titanium, and they clang around. And it's a unique sound that everybody that ice climb knows. Oh, that guy's getting his screws out. So I could hear that, and then I heard somebody scream, ice! And I looked up, and the next thing that I remember is I'm sliding backwards down that slope really fast, and I can hear somebody screaming, turn around, turn around. And I only had one axe. The other axe, my arm pulled right out, and I hurt my bicep, but I didn't, break it or
Didn't tear it.
Tear it. I didn't tear it, but I guess it was all bruised up. And so I had this other ice axe, and I can remember taking that ice axe and jamming it in the snow, because I was headed face first, and I jammed it in the snow, and it spun me around. And then I was going legs first down that slope really fast, and I hit a big pine tree. It was one of the few pine trees up there. And I hit it with my feet, and then it kind of slammed me this way, and then I kind of slumped over to the side. And then the next thing I remember is it's hard for me to explain, but there's a shadow, like a living shadow right here in front of my face. And I couldn't focus. And the last thing that I remember for a year and a half was telling that shadow that you have to get me out of here, I'm dying. And so at that time, from what people have told me, my head was all the way open, and this eye here was hanging down here by my cheekbone. So those 2 guys that had never ice climbed in Vermont, one of them was a 4th-year med student, but couldn't help. I mean, there's nothing he could do. I always carried first aid. I had a really good first aid kit with me. They couldn't do anything. The only thing they could do was keep me from hurting myself more. So one of those young men stayed with me, the guy that had the medical background. He stayed with me. That other young guy ran down off the mountain. He ran the whole road back to the Stowe ski area. Then he had to run up part of the ski slope to find a ski patrol and tell the ski patrol what took place. So meanwhile, I'm on the side of that mountain, dying basically, bleeding profusely. And Russ told me last week, this weekend we went to breakfast together. Russ, I, and Molly, his wife, who's a wonderful, kind person. And Russ told me, he said, I never told you this, but I'm going to tell you now. He said, I hiked up the day after you had your accident. And he said, I've been wanting to tell you ever since. And he said there was a stream of blood, he said at least about 130 feet long, all the way down. He said it was a big, he said it, and I'm sure the snow helped make it bigger, but he was quite shocked when he saw the path of the blood that was in the snow. And of course now I can, now that whole incident to me is, it's not that I've forgotten it, but I've lived with it. So I can live with people telling me. And when I saw the first photos of what they did in the hospital, they did some experimental things on my head. And one of the surgeons, Dr. Laub, who was an amazing person and who helped me unbelievably, and he did something for me that you can't do today. And I'll mention it. I owed him $48,000, and I didn't have hardly any money left. And this is a year and 5 months after the accident. And I had to go in for a checkup from my third operation because my head got infected, and he fixed that. So I had to go in for a checkup, and he asked me how I was doing, and I started crying. I only weighed maybe 135 pounds. And I said, I'm really sad. He said, what's the matter, Rick? He said, well, I told him, I said, I owe you, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I said, I owe you $48,000 and I just can't pay you. And he come up and he make me want to cry. He come up, he gave me a big hug and said, you don't owe me a cent. He said, I can write that off. Doctors can't do that today. He never charged me for that money. And that made a huge difference in my life at that time. I didn't file bankruptcy, but I was living, I was on disability and, just barely getting by. So I wanted to make sure that I could say that, and there's, I would say, hundreds of people that from that time when I got hurt to it took me 5 years to become the person that you see sitting here now. And it's a long, detailed story, but I would say.
How about the young men? Did you ever meet with them?
Oh, yeah.
again?
Yeah.
Have you kept in contact?
I haven't kept in contact with them, but I met them.
You did meet them.
Yeah, I did meet them. And not only that, the Stowe Rescue Team did an amazing job. What they did was incredible. And it was all over the papers in Vermont. And of course I can't remember, but I thanked them. And there was a not a movie, but there was I guess you could call it a movie. They did a 30-minute movie about me on an adventure channel. And it was on, it's on video. I mean, it was on the TV. And which was a good thing because I got a chance to thank the Stowe rescue team and the two guys that helped me. And then they had a big get together after the movie was filmed, and all those people were invited, a lot of the people that helped me. And that was 2 years after the accident, and I still wasn't myself. I wasn't healthy yet, you know. And so that was a good thing for me. But there's well over 100 people that have changed my whole life because of that incident, that have done things for me or spent time with me. Or it's like I said in one of the earlier sessions, sometimes people, when you're down and out, sometimes people do a small thing that seems very small to them, but to me it was huge. You know, people did things for me that I'm sure they didn't even realize how it affected my life.
Jane says, simply amazing to have the right people in your life at the right time. Without those climbers, you would have died that day.
Definitely.
Such kindness from the surgeon.
Yeah,
I agree. And when you talk about like kind of the rebuild part in what you're discussing now, it's not just the physical limitation.
Oh, no.
It's the mental limitation that you put on yourself, and the what ifs, and I should have gone back for my helmet, or all of the mental stuff that you do to yourself is almost as bad, and sometimes even worse than the physical.
Yeah, it is. And when you know, I had a major brain injury. They had to cut out part of my brain. I had a big brain bleed, and I can remember maybe 6 months, I don't know, 7 months I was in ICU, or I don't know. But I remember a doctor coming up, one of the doctors telling me, hey, it's going to be years for you to get better because of your brain injury. And I can remember, this one of the things I can remember, looking at him and snarling and saying, oh yeah, I'll be much better in another month.
Yeah.
You know, because like you said, well, you know, you've been through a lot of stuff.
You become very determined.
Yeah, you know, you become very determined. But the recovery from that was very, I don't know how to explain it. I call it being in the abyss in quicksand. It felt like I was in an abyss of quicksand. I just couldn't get out. And tiny things that, you know, I had to learn how to walk, I had to learn how to talk, I had to learn how to write and read, and there were a lot of things that I had to learn how to do while I was trying to recover from this huge brain injury. And it was quite amazing that I am where I am today after knowing what I went through for that 5 years. I am able to ski almost as good as I used to. I went on climbing after that accident and did some of the best climbs of my life. You know, I lost my eyesight out of my right eye. The optic nerve, when it came out of the socket, was severed. So that can never come back. I lost my sense of smell because my skull was obliterated. They had to take my sinuses out, and all of that has to do with your sense of smell. And it's quite amazing how they saved my life. And again, amazing thing that took place when they finally got me to the hospital. There was a very famous surgeon there who happened to be a friend of mine, and his name is Jeffrey Tabin. And he's quite famous throughout the world. Not only that, he's a world famous mountaineer. He's been on top of Everest and a very accomplished climber. And he was leaving the hospital when I was coming in, and I guess he looked at the paperwork or something. He didn't recognize who I was. He found out it was me, and he stayed there. And he had a lot to do with the way that they saved my life. Because I got hit so hard by that ice. And the interesting thing is that I found out after a couple of years that they told me if I had my helmet on, I would have died instantly. It would have snapped my neck.
Interesting.
Because I didn't have my helmet on, my head took the concussion from the ice. And the chunk of ice was, they think it weighed 70 or 80 pounds. And it was a freak accident. It broke off from 95 or 100 feet up.
Above you.
Yeah,
Yep.
because of, ice does that once in a while because it gets cold, it gets warm, and because there was nobody there climbing. So, so they had to, because my skull was basically obliterated, there were only pieces left of my skull like this big. The rest was all powder. So from what I understand about the first operation was that they were trying to save my life. So they cut the top of my head off. They opened my head all the way up, and they had to clean everything out of there. Meanwhile, I have a bleed on this side of my brain. And there was a part of the membrane on your brain that was dead or dying, so they cut that out. And then they had to put a big drain in there when I was recovering. But because they couldn't figure out how they were going to put my skull back together with these little pieces that they had left. I don't know if you still keep going. Yeah.
Yep, you're good.
So with these little pieces that they had left, and Jeffrey Tabin, the surgeon, came up with an idea that he said, well, we only have these pieces left. He said, what if we splice those? What if we cut those pieces and make 2 pieces out of those? Then we're going to have more pieces to put together in the puzzle. And that's what they did. Not only that, they had specialists from the other side of the country, somewhere in California, that were on video with everybody in the operating room trying to help save my life.
How many hours do you know?
They operated on me nonstop for, I think it was 26 hours.
Wow.
Before,
Incredible.
Before they had me well, they put thousands of stitches on the inside, but then they ended up splicing those pieces of skull, and they put those together with brackets. So I had 50 brackets. No, I had, not 50. I had 58 screws and I think 22 brackets in my head that were holding this bone together. And then they stapled my head. I had 50 staples in my head that were like this. And then I was in ICU and then there's a couple of funny things that happened in ICU.
Well, let's we got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
We have like 10 minutes.
Okay, well, let's
end
get
on the funny note.
Okay, so I was in there for, I think, 7 nights, and somehow, of course, when you get hit in the head, you become agitated. I guess is a nice way of saying it, right?
Yeah. I have
Really?
another word for it.
Yeah, I think you become quite violent.
Uh-huh.
Of course, they had me on meds constantly in the ICU.
Oh,
and I
I'm
had,
sure. There's
You know,
no
I
way
had
you
all
weren't on a
kinds
lot
of
of
junk. I don't
narcotics.
know what I had. I've seen a few pictures, but well, somehow, and I almost can remember this. I almost can remember thinking to myself, "Hey, I got to get out of here. I want to get out of here." And I can remember this, and I remember kind of just going, and I ripped all that stuff out of me, and I had no clothes on, and I went. I don't know how I did it because I couldn't walk, but I did. I ended up trying to run and crawl down the hallway with no clothes on. I don't know if it had something to do with my streaking
Your
career.
high school days.
Flashback.
Yeah, flashback from the high school days streaking. Well, they got, I don't know how many, and that was like at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I made it quite a ways before they stopped me, and then they had to bring me back and strap me down, and I was trying to fight everybody, and they strapped me down, and then from then on, I had a 24-hour watch on me for weeks and weeks watching over me.
Yeah.
But I do remember
My
saying
brother
that.
did something very similar
Yeah.
when he was in the ICU after a long surgery. He
Yeah.
ripped everything out. He just got it in his head he was leaving. He was
Yeah,
going
I
home.
was leaving. I was
Yeah.
out of that
Yeah.
place, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Had it with those people.
yeah, had it. Had it, sick of being laying around, but I can barely remember that. Yeah.
Is that you said a couple of funny things. What else did you do?
Well, once I started to get a little better in ICU, somehow they moved in somebody with me. And it happened to be a Bonacorsi from Barrie. He had gotten in a car accident. And he was recovering, but he was in way better shape than I was.
Is it Mario or Nick?
It's Mario.
Mario.
Yeah. It was Mario Bonacorsi. And of course, I don't know anything, right? I'm
Those are Eddie Roos's cousins.
this is all related to my friends. And I know the Bonacorsis. And actually Mario came up to me like 7 years later.
Yeah.
Told me I was the worst roommate he ever had in the hospital. Yeah. Well, I guess when he was in there, I guess, of course, I don't know what I'm screaming and hollering and skiing. I guess I was skiing, screaming about skiing. And I just kept that poor guy up all the time. So after him being in there 3 nights, they transferred him out, and then I never had anybody in there with me.
They didn't do that again.
Yeah, they
and
never-
you were in there quite some time.
I don't know how long, months. I was in ICU for months. Yeah.
And did you end up going to like a rehab center or?
Well, I
were
did.
you in
I
the
ended up.
hospital?
Well, I have one. How many minutes do I have?
You're good. You have 10.
Well, I was in a place. It's hard to explain because I wasn't quite myself, but they had to pull those staples out. And this is the first thing I can remember coming out. And my mother, they have to lay you on a bench and put your head down like this, and they can't knock you out. They won't knock you out when you have a severe thing like. They just keep you barely. But I was awake, kind of. They have to keep you awake, and my mother her face was over me, and I can remember saying to her, I just want to die. That was one of the times I wanted to give up. And she looked down at me and said, you can't do that to me. I lost your sister. Your sister died, 6 years ago. I can't lose you. I won't live through it. She said, you got to fight. You got to fight. And then I was looking up at her and I said, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. And they pulled out the first staple, and I can't explain the excruciating pain. And I just gripped my teeth for all those staples that they pulled out. And it took them almost an hour to pull them all out. And then that was the last thing that I remember for a long, long time. So yes, they eventually put me in a brain clinic for people that are trying to get over severe brain injuries. And I was the only one to walk out of there within a year. And I had people in there that were nowhere near as bad as I was. And that's a whole long, long story. And
But it's determination. And,
yeah. And there were 2 others.
And you've got to have it. You've got to have that determination, or you make up your mind what the rest of your life is going to look like otherwise.
And there were 2 other major operations after all that. So I was at that time very incoherent. I wasn't fighting yet because I wasn't really awake. I can't explain it. But once they got me to rehab, That was the first day that I really remember because Mike Roos came up to see me that day with Ginger. And they were going to move me. I think, oh no, that was a few weeks after I got to rehab. He came up. But I remember them moving me from the ICU to rehab, or from the hospital room to rehab. That's the first thing I remember, is riding in the back of the ambulance. You know, I felt relaxed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
remember,
you were getting the hell out of there.
yeah, I was getting
right?
the hell out of that freaking place.
Right. Right.
And Russ had been coming up to see me because he works in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew exactly where I was. But they took me to the rehab center in that ambulance. And I remember, the reason why I remember it so well is because I got outside.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember there was it was cold, but sun was out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember that being on my face. And I couldn't sit up or do any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought me in one of those gurneys, pushed me in, and then I remember them transferring me to the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember much for
After that.
a while.
Now, all of this was at UVM, right here in Burlington?
Yes, at
Which is crazy.
Fletcher Allen.
Amazing in itself that
And
something that extensive could happen here, and that you're doing so well.
Yeah, and to have, Dr. Laub and Jeffrey Tabin do a majority of the work on me.
Mm-hmm.
They did have a brain surgeon, Dr. Wald, that dealt with my brain bleed, and he comes into the story a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Dr. Laub and Jeffrey Tabin did a majority of all the work for 26 hours. They had
Incredible.
They had 12 doctors, I guess, off and on in the room, and tons of nurses. And I am, my life has led me to this part in my life so I can help other people. I know what it's like to go through a severe brain injury, and, if people have head injuries and are looking for somebody that's had the experience. I'm not a doctor. I can't, give you professional advice. I can only tell you how I get through it.
Right, which sometimes is what people need.
That's what they need.
They don't want all of the professional stuff.
Because I can
They
tell
don't
you,
understand.
my brain surgeon had no idea what I was going through, and that I can talk about that at a later time.
Right, they know what the textbook says,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And that definitely, that changes.
And that's just the start of the story and the start of how it totally changed my life. And I learned that not everybody has what I have or what you have. You and I know what we have, but
Right.
I can tell you there were people in that clinic that were nowhere near as bad as I was, and they never left or, didn't leave before I did.
Right.
And there's something inside that is different, I think, than a lot of people that kept me moving forward. And that's the key. You have to try to move forward, as you
Right.
know.
Yep. Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people don't.
Otherwise it wins.
Well,
right?
yeah, some people don't move forward. It's always about, what happened to me, and I can't do anything. And
Yeah.
because in the end, just before I left the rehab, they wanted to put me on 100% disability for the rest of my life. And I totally refused it.
Yep.
I weighed 128 pounds when I got out of rehab, if you can believe that. The only reason why they let me out was because I could stand up, I could walk to a stove from where they had me laying down, and this took months for them to teach me how to walk and stand up, and I had to be able to cook something for myself, and I cooked a chicken. And then they said, that's it, you're going home, because they don't want to keep you there if they don't have to.
Right. Right.
So, and then everything, and then the whole rehab thing was an immense struggle for me. Pain like I've never felt in my life.
Yeah.
baby steps.
Baby steps and pain, but somehow the pain breathes life into you.
Yeah, as you know.
You're so, I don't want to call it angry about it, but in a way
Yeah.
you are. You're like, no way, you're not getting me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't die up there, and I'm not going to die with this either. I'm going to.
Yeah, and the excruciating pain is hard for me to describe, and because I couldn't, myself was in that quicksand. I call it quicksand abyss. Myself was way down in there. I couldn't think the way that I do now, or do anything the way that I do now. I was constantly trying to get out from that. It's like you can't, well, I couldn't move, you know, I was pretty much crippled. But yet my brain, you know, was trying to get out of that, trying hard all the time. And dealing with the pain was excruciating. And I hated taking the pain medicine, but they gave it to me, you know, I had to take it. So, and you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Because you hate
I won't
taking,
I won't take
you
it
won't
either.
take it.
And because I always say, what if someday, you know, I want to live life always.
Yeah,
And so what if when I'm 75 and I'm still living and it starts to really bother? You know, maybe if I take it the last 10 years of my life so I
Yeah.
can still live life. But I don't want to take it all these years and then have it not work when I want it to work.
Yeah.
So now I'm strong enough to
right,
work through it.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Rehab center, was that here in Vermont too?
It was. It's part of Fletcher Allen, but it's in a different
So
building.
it's Fanny Allen?
I think it was part of Fanny Allen, but it's even its own building from that. Russ would be able to tell me if he's listening.
Yeah.
Hi, Russ, if you're listening.
Jane says, such determination. What an incredible story.
Oh,
And it
thank
is.
you.
And, but we're going to wrap it up for today.
Okay.
And we'll be
Boy,
back.
it went by too fast, huh?
We'll be back in 2 weeks. And
On
we'll,
the 23rd, right?
on the 23rd, and we'll step into the next part of the journey, which will be the recovery of
Yeah.
it and
Thank
what
you.
you went through, and some of, I'm sure you have people there to thank. And,
Oh, many people.
know,
I have one sad story. I hope I don't cry when I tell it, but I have to tell it. So that'll be next one.
Yeah, it'll be the next one. And until then, as always, thanks for coming.
Oh, what do you mean?
You know I
Thanks
love
for
to talk
having
to
me.
you
And I don't, I don't start these things that he causes, throwing stuff, and
Oh,
Look at
believe
his-
me, I know.
just
I
like
know.
high school.
Always the leader.
I know that you don't.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I know.
me. I would never do
He's a
stuff like
troublemaker.
that.
He's a troublemaker.
He
Yeah.
is, yeah.
So, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll talk about the recovery, and then, and God only knows what else we'll get into.
Yeah, I have a story that's even worse, believe it or not.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Until then, take care. Get outside and enjoy the weather if
Yeah.
you can. Take in a baseball game if you can. The Little League boys, the All-Star team. Oh gosh, now we're over here saying cheers with our iced teas and vitamin waters. Don't spill it on you, boys. Anyways, the All-Star Little League Barrie Community Baseball, they won their game last night against St. Jay. It was
Great
an
game.
absolutely amazing game. It was so much fun and exciting and lots of
Came right
screaming.
down to the last out of the game. The
Yeah.
tying
Holy
run for
smoke.
St.
Yeah.
John's Barrie
Really?
got thrown out at home.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
So
Oh,
Barrie
yeah,
won
it was
7-6.
Freaking amazing. It
the
was
heck?
freaking amazing. But the next game is this Friday night,
Yep.
7:30 too.
Under the lights
Under
in
the
St.
lights,
Jay.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. These boys are determined, and they cheer each other on, and they're just the sportsmanship, and they're a great group of kids, and I love watching them, and I've loved watching them grow, and it's been a lot of fun. So if you can, join us at Legion Field in St. Jay, or they can watch it.
Yes.
On what is that called?
Game something.
Yeah, Game changer.
Game changer.
So
yeah.
I posted the link this morning. So
And
if you,
actually
if you
that-
can't join us,
The
tune
game
in.
last night was on that closed circuit TV. They cover all the basketball tournaments up
Yeah.
at the odd NSN, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yep. It was on that as well. So tune in, and we will talk to y'all later. Have a great day.